Hey, Kat, how are you?
Good morning. I'm well. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. I'm glad we connected. Welcome to this Ozark Mountain speaker series that we started a while back. And I'm excited to talk to you about two of your books. Let me see
Thank
here.
you.
I had the list ready, but I switched my windows. So one of them is the Forgiveness Workshop, and the other one is Divine
That's
Gifts
the
of
second one.
Healing: My Life with Spirit.
Yeah. Divine
Okay.
Gifts of
Well,
Healing is the first one. That's the
mhm.
first book. Um, and really, to be honest with you, everything that I do, and I've been in practice 25 years of private practice. Everything that I do, so you know, and everyone is aware, is a request from Spirit. So the classes that I'm guided to teach people that work with me. This first book was a request from Spirit that I write. So also the other thing is, a lot of the information that's in here is channeled information. So Spirit will come in and start to tell me things, and I just start writing, and then I read it, and I'm like, wow, that's brilliant. I know that wasn't me. so
Well,
so
I figured, why don't you tell me a little bit about it, and I'll just let you start out.
Well, Divine Gifts of Spirit, what had happened was I had already been in practice I've been in, like I said, 25 years. So I had a near fatal car accident in February of 2015. And I was five broken bones in my back, and I had severe head injury. I had four stitches by my brain, 23 inches, 23 stitches on the top of my head. And the Spirit was gracious enough, and people always laugh at me when I say that. They were gracious enough that I lost consciousness before I even remembered any of this happening. Okay. So I have no conscious memory of that trauma. But basically, the reason for the book is this was a journey of a physical proportion. And my entire life has been an emotional journey of releasing trauma. So emotionally, I grew up my dad left when I was 4. My mom was a single mother with 2 daughters in the 70s, hadn't worked in 17 years. A year later, she married an alcoholic. So I grew up in an alcoholic environment. And even from a very, very young age, I would leave my body and I'd be in the bathtub and I could see I could be up here and see my body. I didn't really know. I didn't really question it. It was a natural occurrence for me. And I think what was really happening is because of the amount of trauma, I had a stepfather that was very abusive to my mom, very loud, very drunk. I would, what they call now, dissociate. So I would leave my body to find some peace, right? And I can recall at that early age that Archangel Michael was with me, and he would comfort me and tell me everything's okay and we got you and you're safe and it's fine. And from the time I was in junior high, it was interesting because all of my friends would always ask me for when they had issues and they had stuff going on, they always asked me, what do I do? Or how do I handle this? And I didn't realize until probably the last 5 years or so that I had probably started channeling when I was like maybe 10 years old, because the guidance that I was giving them was so far advanced from somebody that was 10. Although I was growing up in a traumatic environment and I had to learn how to navigate and survive that, that just really popped into my head, a few years back. I'm like, wow, I think I've been channeling spirit my whole life. And I've been counseling people my whole life too. So with my practice, the reason that the book was written and they requested it is they wanted to show people that those of us that are intuitives and those of us who are channelers and healers, because I'm a healer as well, are like anybody else. Okay. We don't get to not experience trauma because we're spiritual, right? We don't get to say, oh, my life's going to be rosy and peachy because I'm on a spiritual path. No. So I think it was basically showing people, I wanted them to see the relationship that I had with what I call my team in spirit. And everybody has 3 archangels. Everybody has 3 ascended masters with them all the time. They came down here with you, and they're here to assist you, but you have to ask them. Okay. So some of the stuff when I see people is I connect them to their people, right? So they can start to have relationship with them. So they basically wanted me to show people, look, adversity equals thank you, even in the most dark circumstances, that I had to look for and dig into my heart for surrender and forgiveness. And the funniest part about this, Ednan, about the whole accident is I got hit by an alcoholic. Okay. It was 3:30 in the afternoon. I'm at a stoplight. And I guess he plows into me, pushes me into incoming traffic. I had a Jeep. I guess it folded in half. And I thought it was so funny, when I found out, I'm like, wow, this is what I realized, and I said this in the book too, is this is karma, not my karma, but this is a man that before me did the same thing to someone else, and after me did the same thing to someone else, and was still driving. Okay. So he had a couple under his belt at 3:30 in the afternoon, and he was texting. I found out that he was an alcoholic. The police officer that was holding my hand in the ER told me, and he's like, we got him. We arrested him. You're going to have to go to court. And I'm like, whatever. I got healing to do. I can't worry about that right now. And it was funny because when I was in court, I felt like this was finally my opportunity as an adult to address and change the course of this alcoholic's life. It was my opportunity finally. As a child, I had nothing to say about my stepfather's behavior. There's nothing I could have done about it. My mother wouldn't allow me to, even as I got bigger and older. But for me, I realized when I was sitting in the courtroom, I'm like, wow, I just realized, and Spirit said to me, look, because of what happened, this man has now got to report, and he has to wear the ankle bracelet, and he's not allowed to drive. His license was taken away permanently. If he's found driving or he's driving drunk, he goes back to jail. And this was a man that had 2 little kids, 2 little ones at home. Okay. And I thought to myself, wow, that's powerful because of what happened. And I want people to understand that everything happens for a reason. Everything's in divine order. Everything happens for a reason. Whether you like it or not, it does. Okay. So for me, it was like, I felt very blessed by that because it was almost like, wow, I finally got an opportunity to have my power back, to be able to make an impact on somebody else's life, even though I had to compromise my own well-being for a period of time. And then the other thing that happened in the accident was I had somebody who I thought was a very dear friend of mine, and she pretty much just blew me off and walked away at a time when I was in the hospital for 32 days. 32 days. And came home and had to rehab. I rehabbed very quickly, of course. But, and I think a lot of people right now are finding out people that they thought were special in their lives or meant something to them really don't. And it's very painful. And I get it. You feel when you have abandonment issues, like a lot of us do. I know I do still because of my dad. and you think somebody loves you and cares about you as much as you care about them, and you find out it's not true, it's painful. And I understand that. So the reason for the first book, I think, is really to show people, even though I have been on a spiritual path probably since I was born, knowing what I came here to do, I had to remember. That doesn't mean that bad things don't happen. Okay. And the reason for the conversation in the book is to show people the miracles that happened in my life, even at the hospital. There's one section where I remember I was in a section of the hospital where there were children. It was a children's ward. And all I heard was crying and crying, and it was just hurting my heart. And I'm like, what can I do with this? So I called in Mother Mary. And I don't want people to think, oh, Mother Mary, this is a Catholic thing. This isn't what we're talking about. Mother Mary is the divine energy of love for all of us. And I asked her, I said, would you please walk the corridors and would you comfort these children? Because, let's think about it. I'm there and I'm freaking out and I'm 57, right? There's these little people stuck in these little cribs, not knowing what's happening, that probably caused emotional trauma for most of their lives. And after I asked her that, everything got quiet because she started to walk the halls and comfort them. And the book is basically about us connecting to who we really are, which is spirit in a physical body. We're not physical bodies trying to be spiritual. That's not who we are. But that's what we're it's like there's so much social agreement and there's so much programming, and people are finally waking up to that, of everything that is done that we have been told to control our power and who we really are and what we're capable of doing for each other and with each other and with spirit. Okay. So the book has a lot to do with that. I go into healing treatments that I do with people. And it's funny because I will be working on somebody and I remove a lot of past lives from people. So I've had people that had entire, a knight's armor. I mean, I would close my eyes and they were just dressed as a knight in armor. And that was from another lifetime. And the layer was still there because they were protecting themselves because of the emotional trauma of this lifetime. Okay. So that was still there. I pulled, etheric, energetic daggers out of people. People that have had pain in a certain area of their bodies their entire lives that nobody's been able to figure out what it is, and nobody can find anything. Well, it was still there from another lifetime. So we pull those out. So we talk about that in the book. I have a relationship with the Egyptians, and I had been calling on them for a long time and ended up finding out that I had 8 past lives in Egypt. So I definitely had a strong Egyptian sense in my being. And I've been working with them very consciously for probably about 5 years. So there's a section in there about the Egyptians and how the Egyptians work with us, and us remembering and putting ourselves back together of really who we are. Okay. So that's in there as well. And then the court date's in there. So yeah, it was kind of like when they asked me to do it, and I wanted to be an author my entire life. I didn't know it was going to be a spiritual author, but it's still an author. When they asked me to do it, there was, when spirit asked me to do something, and this goes on all day in my life because I'm a clairaudient, so I can hear them. I don't question, I don't argue, I don't negotiate. What I'm clear about is this is my team, these are my partners, and they know my mission here, and they are assisting me to fulfill on that, and they're doing that for my highest good. So when that came up about writing the book, I'm like, sure, why not? And the thing that I feel very grateful for too, I never struggle when I write a book. It's an energetic, and it just happens. When I sent the first book to Ozark, they didn't, and even the second one, they didn't change a word in the editing process, not one word, because it's so from a higher frequency and energetic that it doesn't need to be edited. It's just, it is what it is, and it's a message. And that's really, part of what I'm here to do. I work with people that are ready to take on that spiritual path and people that are ready to release all the emotional trauma that they've endured in this lifetime, first and foremost. And then, of course, other things come up, right? And all of us, too, we all have ancestral trauma. Everybody. There's no escaping it. Our ancestors went through horrendous, horrendous things. And to think that that's not in our DNA is crazy. Because, of course, it is. It's going to be there. So I do emotional trauma release on, on 4 different levels with people. We do current life, we do past life, we do ancestry, and then we also do multidimensional release. And people ask me, do I occur in other planes as a physical body? And I'm like, no. What multidimensional trauma is when we have something happen and we refuse to let it go. It will stay in your body until you finally address it, and it'll either come out as a physical ailment. Something, your body will go, hey, your body will keep telling you and telling you and telling you until it gets so big that something like cancer happens. Okay. So multidimensional, what I've been teaching people is multidimensional is when you have an occurrence here and it's traumatic and you work on healing and releasing, every time you relive it by telling somebody the trauma, and you have to, of course, as a human, you get into all the feelings and the emotions about what happened. Okay. You are then, instead of being in the present moment, because that trauma has already been transmuted and released, it's gone. You are the one that's pulling it back into your energy field and reliving it again. But because it's no longer in the present moment and it was released, you're actually doing multidimensional trauma because it's in a different dimension now. It's not here. You're pulling it back in. Okay. So the work that I do with people is around that. I'm actually, I'm a life, soul, and spiritual advisor. I'm a forgiveness facilitator. I do deep trauma and residual life experience healing. I'm very much into and very certain of that vibrational frequency is the key to sound, and vibrational frequency is the key to us being completely and 100% healthy, because we are energetic beings. So I use a lot of tools that raise frequency for people. I use Rife. I use I have a biomat that people lay on that's filled with amethyst. So that helps to release trauma. So yeah, for me to, I think it was really an honor for me to, when Spirit asked me to share my physical with the accident. And I think so many of us, most of our lives, if you have an emotional trauma, it's really easy to just shove that down. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I don't want to deal with this. And you just keep moving, right? And quite frankly, that's what I was taught. I mean, I come from Polish ancestry that got out of, before the Nazis got to America before that happened. Okay. So you talk about an ancestry that's full of survival, right? And we don't show our emotions and shove it down and shut up. And you got to be strong. That's how I was raised. Okay. So all that, and a lot of people are in that boat. They experienced that and they were told as children, you don't do that. And you poor men, you're not supposed to cry. You're not supposed to feel anything. So you've got all this trapped trauma because, you've got ancestry that tells you these things. And then and then society that tells you this garbage. So, for a man to take on their healing is a big deal. And 99% of my community is female, but hopefully that's going to start to change now. But it was an honor for me to do this because I'll tell you something. For me to lose my physical ability to function was devastating for me, because emotionally you can keep moving on and you can keep doing what you got to do. But when they take away your ability to physically do anything, and you got to sit there and you have to sit with it, and you got to be with, what is this all about and why did it happen? It wasn't very much fun, but I appreciate it and I honor it and I acknowledge it, because a lot of wonderful things came out of it. And one of them is the book, I mean, there's so much in here. And all I can tell you is, my books look really tiny, right? They're like 100 pages. And of course, everybody in my community has read both of them. And I asked the girls, so what do you think? And they're like, oh my God, even though that's only 100 pages, it's so dense. It's so dense with information, because I mean, I educate in both the books too. And in Divine Gifts of Healing, I go into the chakras. I teach people about their chakras and their auric field. And so it was an honor for me to write that one, because I also had to be vulnerable enough to share what that was like for me, and to have to really, really, really surrender to my team in spirit, that they were going to ensure that I was going to be okay and I would get through this and everything would be fine and I'd be back. And quite frankly, after I got out of the hospital, I think I was teaching again out of my house within about, I think it was 2 months, maybe 6 weeks. It was pretty quick. So once I got into my own environment where I had crystals and I had essential oils and I had, my meditation time and it was quiet, the healing again progressed very quickly. So I want people to realize that. I want people to understand that that's available to everybody. It's not just me. It's available to everyone. Everyone is just like I am. We're all capable. We all have gifts. How could you not? You're a piece of divinity. How could you not have gifts? I know it can be scary sometimes, but I don't know. To me, it's scarier trying to live in the third dimensional energy that's out there, and I just can't. So I know.
So in a nutshell, is basically directions for those that are willing to do something about the trauma and their issues, to be able then to do something on their own.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just, I want people to realize this isn't hard. This isn't scary. Your head isn't going to start spinning on your neck. This is life. This is energy. The whole universe is energy. Everything around you is energetic. Spirit is energy. So I'm trying to educate them that those of us that are, like Ozark Mountain authors, like Dolores Cannon. Oh my God, what an amazing gift. We're like everybody else, okay? We're like everyone else. We love you. We have compassion. We have understanding, because most of us have endured so much trauma that no matter who comes to us, we have compassion for that. We have an understanding for that and a patience for that and no judgment, okay? So I think that social agreement and expectations from family and programming and manipulation of human being on this planet, we are experiencing a massive awakening that's been going on for 2.5 years. And I think people are really starting to realize who they are, and that what they have been doing this whole time, it doesn't work anymore. It just doesn't work anymore. Okay. And that's why I'm here, to teach them, this is really who you are. Let's get this healed. Let's find out what is it that is your soul's purpose here. And I support them and facilitate that with spirit. I facilitate that for them. But the book, if you look at it, there's nothing scary in there. It's actually very, very, I think it's cool. I mean, I read it over the other night, and I hadn't read it since I wrote it. I'm like, man, this is really kind of fun. I mean, I'm telling them about pulling swords out of people, and you probably think I'm
Well, I
nuts.
think, I don't know if you find this to be the same case, but sometimes when people are going through something difficult, even the most obvious things are not always obvious to them.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
sometimes somebody pointing things out, it's like,
Absolutely.
oh, of course. And
Absolutely.
yeah, I mean, it sounds silly, but it's such a powerful little thing.
Absolutely. That's, what I'm here for is I'm a facilitator, and I'm a facilitator of spirit. And when somebody comes to see me and they're sharing the trauma of their lives or what they're in the middle of, you know, sure, is part of it me counseling them? Sure, but it's also who I'm channeling. It's channeling also their people and their higher self to give them a different perspective of what's going on and a different understanding of what's going on, right? So who wouldn't want that? You know what I'm saying? I mean, my God, I think about that and I'm like, oh, if I could have found somebody like me when I was 12, that really would have been cool. But I guess it wasn't meant to be. I had to go through my trauma myself to get to where I am. So
Right.
yeah,
So
it's
I
an
wanted to ask you actually a little bit about that process. As you were talking, I was trying to imagine how that actually works. So would it be a combination of having a conversation with that person along with channeling and then along some other things? So how
yeah,
would I don't know if this is the right
yeah.
way to ask
That's
it.
what
What would be
happens.
what would be a typical session be like?
People usually, when people start with me, they do something called a getting started, getting to know you session, getting to know you, because I need to know them, right? I need to know what's going on. I need to know how they're feeling. I need to know what they're dealing with. I need to know why they're sitting in front of me. What do they want? What's their expectation? And as I'm talking to them, that's when the channeling occurs. That's when my team in spirit and who I work with will speak to them on a level of understanding and compassion, and almost get to the point where we're able to help them to see and to help them understand why they have made the choices that they've made up until this point in their lives based on the trauma that they've experienced, right? And how we're going to clear that and how we're going to work through that. So it's almost like it's counseling, but it's counseling from a higher level. It's counseling from spirit. And after we do that part of the session, I normally do energy work on people. So the stuff that we started to kick up in the conversation to come to the surface energetically, I then put them on the biomat and I do energy work to start clearing and cleaning that off because it's come to the surface of their chakras and their auric field. And then I see if I pick up anything else that's in there. And quite often, what's really great is when I get to the seventh layer of their auric field, I'm able to see a lot of past life stuff that occurred. So I can start to talk to them. And the thing that's funny about it, I usually will be presented with 3 past lives if they've had them. When I start telling them what I'm seeing, the thing that's really beautiful about it is you can then see how the lifetime here relates to what happened back there. Okay. Because if we didn't learn our lessons and we didn't fulfill on what we came here for in those past lives, we just carry that with us to the next lifetime until it finally gets healed and released. So we do that. We do what I do emotional release. I will test them. I do muscle testing about what emotions may be trapped in their bodies and what they're holding on to. So we release that too. If there is physical things that have manifested out, I also am pretty much a metaphysician. So basically, I always want to look at if somebody is manifesting out physically, I want to look at the real core reason behind that. Okay. Metaphysically, we look at what is the trauma that has this part of the body reacting in a physical sense and reacting out physically, right? So I do the metaphysics with them too. So it kind of depends on, and then after we're through with that, some people stay with me on a weekly basis just to come in and get channeling and get guidance on what's going on in their lives. And then other people will do classwork with me. I teach different workshops. I teach different levels of one of the things that I feel is very valuable for people, and it's on my website to purchase, is I do a class called Foundational Frequencies for Higher Vibrational Living. And that's basically teaching people about their eating, about essential oils, about their chakras in their auric field, about getting energy work. It's a huge amount of information to support them in raising that vibrational frequency of who they are during the healing process, because that's who they are anyway. It's all the garbage that we endure being here in a physical body that just piles on, piles on, piles on, piles on, and then you lose touch with the vibrational, energetic being that you really are. That's just what happens. So somebody's really got to be ready to peel that onion layer. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because you're just peeling layer after layer after layer after
Well,
layer.
it sounds like a great, like kind of like a 1-2 punch for any of these things that need to be worked out, because okay, you want to take an approach on your own, there's the book. If you still have some issues, please come see me.
You know what? And I
It's
want
like a
people to understand.
good follow-up support.
Oh, yeah. Listen, most of my people stay with me indefinitely. And the reason being for that is, and maybe they'll go away for a short period of time, but they're always back. The reason for that is we are living on planet Earth, and planet Earth is the planet of learning the hard way. Okay. It's the only planet in the entire universe that is a planet of duality. It is a planet of learning. Everyone that's not on this planet that's galactic or intergalactic, which I have a relationship with them as well, they observe humans and they're just so amazed by humans because they wonder, how do we live inside of this? It's, to them, it's difficult watching us to struggle between good and bad and right and wrong and black and white. And oh my God, how, it's so constricting on a spirit. So people will go away for a little bit, but the fact of the matter is, you're on the planet, and you got to deal with what goes on every day, right? Mm-hmm. So it's not like it goes away. What I'm doing is giving people tools to be able to navigate that in a way that's more healthy for them and supports them in their spiritual journey, which is walk away from the judgment, walk away from you're right, I'm wrong, walk away from everything that you've been programmed to believe, step into who you truly are, and you'll be able to navigate everything around you very differently. And it won't affect you the way it has affected you your whole life, because you now know, and you're cleaning up that energy, and you're open to a higher frequency. You now know how to not have it do that to you anymore. Okay. And that's valuable, because I'm not just saying to people, yeah, keep coming to see me indefinitely. I don't know when we're going to get this done. No, because we do the best we can. We're exposed to things every day that trigger past memories. We have to clean that up. But I want to give people the tools to have a high frequency life so that they can navigate those things differently than they have in the past. Okay. And it's that simple, but people are normally with me a very, very long time. I do certification in energy work up to master level. I teach so many things. The second book, which you're probably going to ask me about, the Forgiveness Workshop from Higher Self Spirit, that was an actual workshop that I did out of my office for 2 years, over 2 years, with 8 women. And we met every Sunday for 2 hours. And basically, we were given direction by Spirit what it meant to forgive from the higher self spirit and not from ego. Okay. And the gals would come in every week. And of course, what are they going to do? They're going to talk to all of us about something that might have happened that week, which was beautiful, because then we would apply what Spirit was teaching us about how to navigate this differently, how to look at this differently. How do I heal this differently than from ego? Because when people release from ego, or they think they forgive from ego, they're not. They're usually like, who cares? I don't care about them anyway. I don't
It's
need
more
that
about
person.
feeling good about actually meaning it, right?
Right. You know? But forgiveness is really, forgiveness workshop, there's a forgiveness formula in there. And how, again, forgiveness workshop, we finished the workshop and we decided we were going to go on to something else. And of course, Spirit says to me, okay, that's book number 2. You've been taking notes for 2 years with these gals. It's already written. So that one I wrote in 6 months. My first book took me 3 years to write because I have a practice to run too. But the second one was like 6 months, boom, I'm done, So so people know, inside Forgiveness Workshop is what we call the forgiveness formula. And this was given to me by Archangel Metatron. The forgiveness formula is basically when you make a list of all the people you feel you need to forgive, you have to ask yourself these questions. What has this person done for me? Not to me. You're not a victim. If you want to stay in victim, be my guest, you can. If you want to blame people and point fingers, sure. But this isn't about that. This is about freedom from all of that, right? So it's, what has this person done for me in my life? And trust me, I will get some kickback from people when I do this workshop, right? What do you mean? They did this and they did that to me. I'm like, and you are just a victim of your circumstances. You have no personal power. What are you talking about? They did it to you. Now, I understand that when somebody's endured extreme trauma in childhood, because children are pretty much victims. They don't have a lot of power, right? And I've had to work through, molestation of people in childhood, and that is a tough thing to sit with. For them to have to say, what has this person taught me? What did this person show me? Who did I have to become because of what this person facilitated in my life? Okay. So remember what I said earlier, everything happens. Everything is in divine timing. Everything is already pretty much what you have asked for before you came here. You have a divine blueprint. You planned most of this. You asked your people who are part of your soul's team and your soulmates up when you were in an energetic without a body. Would you do this for me? When I go down to earth, I need to learn this lesson. Will you facilitate this for me? And your soul group will say yes, because they love you. Even if it's something really heinous and really painful. I tell people, you got to think about, if someone is in your soul group and you asked for this and you come here and it happens, I want you to think about the level of love that person must have for you, that they would agree to treat you in a way that was painful for them to do because you needed to heal something. But they did it anyway and they agreed to it. Okay? That starts to really change people's perspective about emotional trauma and things that happen. Okay. And I think it was, after we went through those 2 questions, it's like, okay, you've really got to look at, because of what happened, did that facilitate who you are today? Of course it does. I look at all the trauma that I went through most of my life, and it's like, I'm very clear. I wouldn't be who I am if I hadn't gone through what I've gone through. I'm very clear about that. There's no way I'd be as patient. I wouldn't be as compassionate. I wouldn't be as understanding. I wouldn't be non-judgmental. You know, somebody that leads a Marsha Brady life, they ain't got any compassion for somebody that's made a bad choice because they haven't experienced that, right? So the book is really also what we go through after that is we, next to each person, I have them write down an emotion that that person brings up for them. So when they think of that person, you know, what feeling comes up? And I know that they finally healed and released when that feeling is no longer there. When that emotion is gone and they're able to just be with what happened and let go of the story around what happened and understand the impact of what happened, then I know they finally let that go. The other thing that I have people do is, and this is kind of funny because I've had people, I had people with a list of 160 people. I'm like, oh my God, what do you go back to the crib? What? Come on, man.
Right.
You know? And then I've got people that only have 5 people. You know, the 5 people that when somebody comes to me and they put down 160, I'm like, okay, look, why don't we just take the top 5 that have had the biggest impact on your life? And usually it's parents, your siblings, possibly an ex-husband or an ex-wife. And then we focus on those top 5 to begin with. And the first thing, this is something important too that I forgot. When we were making our list of people to forgive, after we were done, I always ask everybody, so, you know, did you put yourself on the list? Everybody like, oh, I didn't even think about that, right? I even did that. The first time we did this, I didn't put myself on the list. And I'm like, oh my God, you can't forgive anybody else unless you forgive yourself first. How are you going to forgive anyone else? So, you know, we had to really look at how important it was to forgive ourselves in the choices that we've made, why we made those choices, and the outcome of those choices. Okay. So what I had them do is what they do in workshop, and I'm actually going to start teaching workshop at a local college. So I'm pretty excited about that. What we did is I first asked them, write a letter to yourself. I want you to write a letter to yourself using the forgiveness formula. What have you done for yourself? You know, and people really struggled with that. They had to really be with, and one of the things I specialize in too is self-love. You know, they really had to be with loving themselves and understanding that everything they chose to do, number one, is where they were at the time in their lives when they didn't know anything else, which is for most of us, right? I mean, we can only know what we know, and we only do what we do from what we know. So if you don't know what you don't know, let yourself off the hook, okay? You know, it's kind of like, what are you doing? So you have to write a letter to yourself, and then they write letters to their parents, their mom, their dad, their siblings, whoever's those top 5, to really, really get in touch with gratitude, a letter of love and a letter of gratitude to each of those people. And that really helps people to get in touch with, wow, you know what? If my dad didn't treat me like that, I wouldn't have taken the course to try and learn how to do this or how to be a better person, or I don't want to repeat that behavior in my family, right? That's another thing about the ancestry. When you have the ancestry going on and you have somebody in this time period that says, you know what? The cycle stops here. I'm stopping this now. Okay. When people do that and they heal that, not only do they heal this lifetime, they heal the ancestry lineage as well. Everybody that's gone is healed. And the beautiful part about it, because the cycle stops here, it no longer goes forward. Who could ask for more than that? You know what I'm saying? Who wants to repeat that behavior? So it's healed. And then the next generation doesn't have to deal with that.
Well, I think if I may just quickly interject, I was just going to say that in my experience, just from being around people and having, just heard a lot of stories and witnessed a lot of things. One of the hardest things to do for people is to actually look at themselves in a objective way.
Absolutely.
To really say, okay, I truly want to change this, fix this, heal this. How do I go about that? And a lot of them sometimes, like you mentioned, they start out with that ego part of I want to heal this, but instead it's just part my French, more bitching.
Yes, exactly. And I do hear that too. But you know what? Listen to me. How is anybody going to know that's from ego unless I tell them? They're programmed to be that way. They think that's the way it is. They think that's the way it's supposed to be. They don't know anything else. So until I start to introduce them to a different way of being and a different way of living and a different way of loving themselves and accepting their journey, they're not going to know. And I'm really hoping with the awakening on this planet that more and more people are seeking that path, because I'll tell you, it's pretty hard when you awaken to, gosh, so much of what I've been taught is I'm programmed and I do what everybody tells me to do. And when you really wake up to that and you want something different, I think just like you said, it would be very difficult, especially somebody who's newly awakened, to know what to do. I mean, what do you do? All of a sudden, here you are, and you're like, oh my gosh, I think most of what I've thought most of my life wasn't even true. What do I do now? Who am I? Really? So that's why I also feel it's not just me, so many of Ozark Mountain's authors are about that. We're really here to educate people about the other side. We're here to educate people about who they are and what they're capable of. And I mean, Dolores Cannon was just unbelievable at that, of showing people their past lives and why they do what they do and the deeply buried trauma. And we're all here to help, Sometimes it's kind of hard because people think we're weirdos, but I don't care. I like being a weirdo.
Right. Well, thank you very much for going over in great details about your books and just all the things that you do that people can hopefully take advantage of, whether it would be through a book or to talk to you and be in contact with you directly. I figured, in conclusion, if there's something else you want to finish off with, and we'll basically I'll have all the links in the description below to your website and books and any other things that you still have that you want to send to me. Let me know. But I believe I have quite a few links for you that I can already add, which is let me see, Twitter and your website.
Yeah,
and some
Facebook.
Other things.
Facebook threw me off there like 30 days ago for no reason.
Oh, okay. Well,
that's hilarious.
Right.
I have no idea.
Any luck of getting back, or just
I don't know.
No answer? Okay. Well, I'll include it on there, and if it gets reactivated, at least the link will be up there.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think if you mention my website, you could even mention my phone number and my email, because if people are looking for me,
Okay. Yeah, if whatever you would like to share, because sometimes people, if they want that privacy, phone numbers is usually something people leave out. But if you want to share that, of course, I'll have it on there. Do you want to give your phone number now too, or
no, I'm okay
while I
with
have
it,
you on?
Sure, for sure. I mean, if people, if you really, really want to read about everything that's available for you, I have a very extensive website. I mean, there's a lot of pages, there's a lot to read because I believe in that. And it's wellnesssanctuary.net. My email is wellnessmentor, all lowercase, mentor at sbcglobal.net. My phone number is 815-263-4537. My only request is text me first, because I could be in an appointment and I don't want somebody to feel like I'm ignoring them. So I want people to know too, I'm more than available. You don't have to live close by. If they want to Zoom with me, if they want a phone call with me, it's no problem. Okay. If they're reading my books and they're like, I got a question, or I don't understand this, or I don't get how to do this part of forgiveness, then ask me. Just ask me, because I'm more than on board to do the support and the counseling part in the forgiveness workshop. If people are working this and they're working it alone, hey, just let me know what you need,
Mm-hmm.
and
All right, well,
that's that.
great. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
As I mentioned, is there any kind of final words that you would like to finish off with, or do you just want this to be it?
I guess not. I just, I want to encourage people, don't be afraid, be who you truly are, step into your power and your presence, your spiritual presence. It is who you are. You can resist it if you want to, but I don't think that you're going to be allowed to resist it much longer with where we are in the planet and the things that are occurring here on Earth that need to happen. And just basically don't be afraid. There's a lot of us out here that are here to help you and to support you and to do it with love. And we want to do that. It's what we came here for. So yeah.
Well,
Thanks.
Kat, thank you very much. I'm glad we're able to connect today and do this.
Me
So I
too.
really
Thank you.
appreciate
I
your
enjoyed
time.
it. Thank you
All right,
very much.
well, I hope to talk to you again sometime in the future. So you take care and talk to you
You
later.
too. Feel free. Call me.
All right, bye bye.